Okay, as promised, I'm going to go through homework assignment 5. Here are the questions on Scholar. Part 1. For a project, when do MAR and the IRR come into play? Okay, fine. In order to answer this, just remember, well, you have to remember everything I taught you in class, but other than that, what you have to remember is every time I gave you a project and I told you, here's the MAR, try and figure out the present worth, so on and so forth, and when we did the IRR, we had the cash flow diagram, and it is fair to say, in real life, most of these cash flow diagrams are usually projections because we're looking into the future. So having said that, try to figure out when MAR and IRR come into play. That shouldn't be so tough to figure out. Okay, what's the next one? Okay, this is my favorite question on this assignment. G-bonds are auctioned by company Y every year. This year, only person A, person B, person C, and person D attend the auction. The face value of a G-bond is $1,000. At the end of the auction, the final bid from each person were as follows, so on and so forth. Okay, and what does this question ask you? You're spying on them, and you have to assume all the 4 bids were motivated by each individual's alternative investment option. So who had the best alternative investment option? Okay, now here's what I want you to think. Let's say there are 2 people, okay? You and me, okay, that's good enough. Now I have an alternative investment option that gives me 10% interest every year, whatever. You can take whatever time period you want for this bond. And you have an alternative investment option that gives you 20% return. So in essence, your alternative is better than mine. So who is more inclined to pay more for this bond, you or me? Most probably me, because since I have a lesser alternative investment option or a inferior alternative investment option, the bond looks more attractive to me, so I'm willing to bid more for the bond. Whereas for you, who has a better alternative investment option compared to me, the bond looks less attractive to you as compared to me, so you're inclined to bid lesser than me. So, you know, that's... I practically gave away the answer there, but that's fine. I want you to remember this for the future, so this helps you in your calculations and helps you figure out if your answer is correct or not. Okay, let's go to the next question. I'm not answering this. There's just yes or no over here, so you figure it out. And it shouldn't be so tough because I think Sean mentioned this on one of the forums, if I remember correctly. I forget if it was the 8 a.m. forum or the 10 a.m. forum. The answer is there. Go figure it out. It's not so tough. Okay. I initially was tempted to put up a Morpheus meme on Scholar. Well, what's that? Well, what does that meme say? What if I told you, so on and so forth? Because on one of the forum posts I saw that people were calculating the cost of this bond and so on and so forth, which is fine. There are different ways to solving this question, but yes, sometimes I do have the capacity to troll you. I shouldn't say I do have the capacity. I certainly have the capacity. Sometimes I do like to troll you. If you have observed, or if you've seen the pattern for this assignment, most of the questions, they haven't been computationally intensive as perhaps some of the questions on your previous assignments. Almost all the questions here, in fact, I shouldn't say almost all the questions here can be solved by a few simple calculations, nothing tedious or whatever. So if you've gone ahead and sat down and figured out the cash flow diagram for the bond, or what the person gets for each of the alternative, that is very good, that is very thorough, and that's great. And I'm just here to present another opinion, so you know, this hopefully makes your life simpler in the future. Okay, fine. Company Y wishes to raise capital for future projects. Whatever, we don't care. Their goal is to raise this capital by December 31st, 2020, so we have a date. They wish to do this by selling bonds. Okay, we have another piece of information. They decide to name this bond as a G bond. I'm very bad with names, so don't ask me why I named it that. I was just thinking about a letter and G just popped in my head. Okay. Company Y has decided that it will auction 3,000 G-bonds on December 31st, 2014 at 6 p.m. Now there's a typo initially, if I remember. Oh, there's still a typo. The G bond is described as follows. Z, that's a face value, that's $1,000. The bond life is 6 years, not 5. Just make sure you remember that. This is 6, not 5. The bond rate or the interest rate is yet to be decided by the company. So they're not sure yet. They know that they want to sell 3,000 bonds, but they don't know what is the interest rate they should offer on these bonds. They know the face value too, that's $1,000. So imagine if you can sell all these bonds for their face value. 3,000 bonds for $1,000, that's great. That's $3 million. So just by selling 3,000 bonds, you're raising $3 million capital initially, but that's not what they get back at the end. Okay. Now the bond life is 6 years, so you have to figure out how much interest you're willing to pay the owners of the bond over the next 6 years. And you also have to give the owners of the bond a redemption value or a redeemable price, or yeah, whatever, redemption value, let's go with that. Now the redemption value is payable on December 31st, 2020. Fine, another piece of information. Now auction policy, this is important. I haven't mentioned this before, but I mentioned it specifically for this question because I knew you might think that during an auction, what if they bid less, how does that work, so on and so forth. So I didn't want you to think that way, so here's that piece of information that should help you out. Auction policy, company-wide will not sell G bonds to anyone whose bid is less than the face value of the bond. Now here's my question to you. What does it cost for company Y to make these G bonds? Practically nothing. Most probably they have to print a piece of paper or just write out a PDF document, whatever it is. So we can assume the cost of making these bonds or creating these bonds is zero. Does company Y have to sell all 3,000 G bonds? They would like to, but they don't have to. But what is the rule they're going to follow? They're not going to sell any bond to anyone who bids less than the face value. So they're not, the idea here is they will receive at least $1,000 on each bond they sell. Definitely not lesser than that. And that is useful because straight away they can go ahead and deposit that money, whatever money they get by selling all these bonds. For example, if they sell 200 bonds, for sure they're going to earn more than $200,000. At least $200,000 if not more. Now the idea is they're trying to project this. Okay, well, what do we do after we get that money? We go ahead and deposit in one of these alternatives. These are outlandish alternatives. In real life, these alternatives may not even exist. These are very nice interest rate values with very specific times. But I'm just doing that because throughout this course, people are confused about the time, when it's paid, so on and so forth. So all this information is there to help you out. It doesn't have to work like this in real life, so consider this practice. Okay, so what is alternative 1? You can deposit money between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. on any day. You will receive interest daily on your account, so on and so forth. The interest rate is 0.02%. Now, I'm lazy. I'm not going to sit down and figure out what is the cash flow for this. And also, in this case, I don't want to because I don't know the interest rate. So I don't know what is the interest the company is going to pay to the bond owners. But this is what I do know. Now, let's say I borrow $100 from you, and I go deposit that in a bank, and I tell you I'm going to give you 1% interest every year. And at the end of 5 years, I'll return $100 to you, along with the interest for that year. Now, suppose the bank gives me $3 interest every year. So what happens after the first year? I have $103 in my bank account. I take out $1 from that and give it to you. I still have 102. And if you repeat that cycle, by the end of 5 years, for sure, I will have more than $100. So I take out 100 from that account and give it to you, and I have some money left over. So essentially, in this entire thing, I practically put in no effort, but I ended up with a non-zero amount. The only effort I had to put in was to go deposit it in a bank and to find a bank that would give me that interest rate. Also, this raises questions. If these alternatives exist, why the hell would anyone even go and invest in the bond? Once again, this is just a practice for you to figure out. Real life scenarios may not be as nice and simple as this. They might be more complicated, but the idea is to expose you to simple tasks and simple exercises first so that you get a grasp of what's going on and then you can move on to more complicated things. Okay, alternative 1. Now let's say I go ahead and deposit $1 here, or I shouldn't say $1. Let me just try and see, what is it? No, let's go with $1. Let's see what $1 grows into by the end of 1 year over here for alternative 1. Now, the number of days, I don't know. Certainly, the years are given to you, so you can figure out the number of years in each, the number of days in each year. But I'm just going to go with 365 for now to get an estimate of what the interest might be on $1, or what $1 grows into by the end of the year. Raised to the power 365. Okay, so this is saying, okay, let me just write down. So for alternative 1, if I deposit $1 in the bank account by the end of the year, that grows into... Okay, so what is this telling me? I'm getting an interest rate of 7.57%. Pretty good. What about alternative 2? See, I'm not even looking at the bonds anymore. I'm just looking at the alternatives, because the company has to decide what is a bond rate based on the alternatives. Okay. What happens in alternative 2? You will receive annual interest of 6% on your money. So I already know this is 6%, so I'll just leave that at 6%. Alternative 3. You must deposit money, so on and so forth, every 6 months. So you get interest twice. And what is the interest rate? 3%. You will receive 3%, yes. So this is going to be 1 plus 3% raised to the power 2. Now this is not 3% semi-annually. So when I say 3% interest every 6 months, you take 3% interest every 6 months, not 1.5%. Okay, so how much does this come out to be? Great, 6.09. So automatically here you can see alternative 1 is the best so far. That's the most. That's the alternative which gives company Y the most amount of money. Alternative 2 can be eliminated easily. Alternative 3 can also be overlooked as of now. We haven't looked into the options for the question yet, but as a guess, so to speak. Alternative 4 is 1.75% interest calculated every 3 months. So this is 1 plus 1.75% calculated every 3 months. That's quarterly. So how much does that come out to be? 7.19. So there's a competition between alternative 1 and alternative 4. So let's look at the options. Company Y will deposit money obtained from the auction in alternative 1, and the G bond rate will be set at 5%. Okay. This is interest. And bond rate. Let's just write that down. 5% bond rate. Alternative 4. That's what it's showing me, and 6.5%. Alternative 3 and 6%. And alternative 2 and 6%. Okay, now just look at what this is trying to say. If I deposit $1 in alternative 1, by the end of the year I would have 7 cents more, out of which I have to give out 5 cents as interest, or 7.57 cents more. In alternative 2, I earn 6 cents every year, but whatever interest I earn, I have to give it away. So obviously you can cancel alternative 2 at this point in time. Alternative 3 is you earn 6.09 cents every year, and you have to give 6 cents of those away. Now, if you just look at this and perform this iteratively, you will know which alternative and which bond rate is the best, and that should give you the answer. That's all there is to this assignment. I made it simple on purpose, just to see... Just to see how you would react. I hope this hasn't been too tough. Do not become comfortable and think all homework assignments will be like this. Maybe they will be, maybe they won't. I don't know. But the idea was more IRR, the bonds, they're all tricky concepts, and I just wanted you to be comfortable with what did I want you to be comfortable with? Yeah, I wanted you to be comfortable with all these ideas. So in the future, when you get questions like this on the exam, you won't be taken aback or you won't be hoodwinked. Anyway, that's all I have for today. I will see you in class on Monday.